Have you ever sat in a quiet room, looked at your phone, and realized it's been days, maybe weeks, since someone in your family called? Maybe your children are busy with work, your grandkids are wrapped up in their own lives, and you start to wonder, do they even think about me anymore? That silence can feel heavier than any burden we've ever carried. It's a loneliness that seeps in slowly, until one day, you wake up and realize you feel invisible in the very family you helped build. If you've ever felt that way, forgotten, left behind, or simply unseen, I want you to know, right here and now, you're not alone. So many people over 60 quietly feel the same way. They don't talk about it, but they feel that ache, that sense that life has moved on without them. And if that's you, my friend, I want to share something with you today that may shift how you see everything. Because the truth is, being forgotten isn't always what it seems. See, the world has changed so much in the past few decades. Families don't gather around dinner tables the way they used to. Kids live in different cities, sometimes even different countries. Everyone's glued to their screens, and time slips away faster than any of us can catch it. But here's the thing, just because they don't call as often doesn't mean they don't care. Love doesn't always look like constant contact. Sometimes, it's quiet, hidden beneath the chaos of modern life. I know it's easy to take that silence personally, to think, if they loved me, they'd call. But here's something to remember, the way people express love changes over time. Your children, your grandchildren, they grew up in a world that moves faster, louder, and more distracted than ever before. It's not that you've lost your place in their hearts, it's that the noise of life has drowned out their ability to slow down. And yet, while we wait for them to remember us, we often forget someone else, ourselves. When you spend years taking care of others, it becomes your identity. You were the one who cooked the meals, drove them to school, listened when they cried, stayed up late when they were sick. Your life revolved around being needed. And when that stops, when the house grows quiet, you're left asking, if no one needs me anymore, who am I? That question, that's where the real pain hides. Because deep down, it's not just about them forgetting you. It's about you forgetting how to live for you. You see, the truth is, your story didn't end when your children grew up. It didn't stop when the house emptied, or when your role as caretaker changed. You are still the same soul with dreams, feelings, and gifts to share. The world still needs you, just in a different way. Let me tell you something that might sound simple, but it's powerful. You are not forgotten, even if it feels that way. The people who love you may not always show it the way you expect, but their love is still there, sometimes buried under exhaustion, work stress, and the fast pace of life. But more importantly, you can remind yourself that your worth has never depended on how often someone else remembers you. Because the truth is, your value doesn't fade with time. You don't need constant attention to be important. You have already made an impact in ways that last beyond a phone call. Every lesson you taught, every act of love, every bit of strength you showed, all of that lives on in your family, whether they say it or not. But now, maybe it's time to turn some of that love inward. When you stop waiting for someone to fill your heart and start filling it yourself, something amazing happens. The loneliness doesn't vanish overnight, but it begins to soften. You start seeing beauty in small things again, the warmth of the morning sun, the sound of birds outside, the comfort of your favorite cup of tea. You begin to realize that peace doesn't come from who calls you, but from how you care for your own soul. One woman once told me, I used to sit by the phone waiting for my daughter to call. Every day, I felt smaller and smaller. Then one day, I stopped waiting. I joined a local group at the library, started painting again, and found joy in talking to people my age. You know what's funny? When I stopped waiting for her to call, she started calling more. There's something powerful about that. When we start living again, people notice. The energy shifts. When you fill your own days with meaning, you become magnetic again, not in the way of trying to get attention, but in the way of simply radiating life. So maybe the question isn't, why have they forgotten me? Maybe the better question is, what am I ready to remember about myself? Remember who you are. You're someone who's lived, loved, sacrificed, and grown stronger through every chapter. You are not a background character in someone else's story, you are the author of your own. And even if this chapter feels quieter, it can still be full of light, purpose, and love. You might be surprised how many people are silently watching you, your children, your neighbors, your friends, drawing strength from how you carry yourself. You might feel unseen, but you are teaching them what resilience looks like. And here's one truth that I want you to hold close, especially when those lonely moments come. Being forgotten doesn't mean being unloved. The world may forget to check in, your phone may stay silent, but your worth, your presence, it still matters deeply. And once you remember that, life starts to feel different. You begin to live not in waiting, but in gratitude, not in longing, but in fullness. Now that we've touched on this truth, that being forgotten doesn't define your value, let's keep going deeper into what it truly means to reconnect with yourself and rediscover joy, even when others drift away. If you're still watching and feel that these insights are meaningful, please type number 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I warmly invite you to do so, and don't forget to turn on the bell, so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos designed to uplift, inform, and inspire. Your support truly means a lot. It's what keeps us going and allows us to continue sharing thoughtful, helpful content just for you. Now, let's continue this journey together. There comes a moment when you stop chasing after people and start realizing that peace is not something others give you, it's something you create for yourself. When you've spent a lifetime putting everyone else first, learning to focus on your own happiness can feel strange at first, even uncomfortable. You might even feel guilty, thinking, am I being selfish? But let me tell you something, taking care of your spirit isn't selfish. It's survival. It's strength. You see, as we get older, our world naturally gets smaller. People move, routines change, and our bodies don't always keep up with the pace we used to know. And in that shrinking world, it's easy to fall into the trap of waiting for a phone call, a visit, a message that says, I'm thinking of you. But what if, instead of waiting, we started creating moments that make us feel alive again? One of the hardest lessons I learned, and maybe you felt this too, is that sometimes, the people you love the most simply don't understand what you need anymore. It's not because they don't care. It's because they see you as strong, as capable, as the person who's always been there for them. They assume you're fine, even when you're not. But inside, you might be thinking, I wish they'd just call. I wish they'd ask how I'm doing. The truth is, they might not realize how quiet your world has become. They don't see the long afternoons when the house feels too still, or the evenings when the TV is just background noise for the loneliness. And because they don't see it, they don't respond to it. That's why, if we want connection, sometimes we have to take the first step, not out of desperation, but out of love for ourselves. Reach out, not because you need to be rescued, but because you deserve to be seen. Call that old friend you haven't talked to in years. Walk to the park and smile at someone sitting alone on a bench. Join a community group, even if you're shy at first. You'd be surprised how many people your age are craving the same thing, real conversation, real warmth, real belonging. There's a beautiful thing that happens when we take small steps toward connection. It's like lighting a candle in a dark room. Suddenly, the shadows don't seem so big anymore. You don't have to fill your life with people to feel whole. You just need a few meaningful moments that remind you you're still part of something bigger. And let's talk about something else, forgiveness. When we feel forgotten, resentment can quietly grow inside us. It starts small, maybe disappointment after a missed birthday call, or frustration when your messages go unanswered. But over time, that feeling builds up. You start thinking, they've changed, or even worse, maybe I don't matter to them anymore. But holding on to that pain only drains your energy and steals your peace. The person who suffers most from resentment isn't the one who forgot, it's you. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It means freeing yourself from the burden of constantly reliving the hurt. Sometimes, it helps to remind yourself that your children and grandchildren are walking through their own storms. They might be juggling careers, raising families, facing financial struggles, or simply fighting their own quiet battles. They might not have the emotional energy to show up the way you wish they would. That doesn't make your pain less real, but it helps you see it with compassion instead of bitterness. Because when you choose compassion over resentment, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as someone who has the power to love without conditions. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And maybe, just maybe, this stage of life isn't about being remembered by others, it's about remembering yourself. Do you remember the things that used to bring you joy? Maybe it was gardening, or painting, or singing in a choir. Maybe it was writing letters, baking your favorite bread, or just sitting outside watching the sunset. Somewhere along the way, those small joys might have gotten buried under years of responsibility and worry. But they're still there, waiting for you to rediscover them. The truth is, happiness after 60 doesn't look like it did when you were young. It's quieter, gentler, but in many ways, deeper. It's no longer about chasing excitement, it's about finding contentment. It's about realizing that peace isn't found in constant company, but in knowing how to be at peace with your own presence. I once met a man who told me something I'll never forget. He said, "When my kids stopped visiting so often, I thought my life was over. I spent months feeling sorry for myself. Then one morning, I looked out the window, saw the sunrise, and thought, I'm still here. And that means I still have time to make something beautiful of what's left." That line, "I'm still here," that's powerful. Because it reminds us that no matter who forgets, no matter who doesn't call, you are still here. You still have mornings, laughter, stories, and dreams. You still have moments left to fill with meaning. And you don't have to wait for anyone's permission to do that. When you wake up tomorrow, instead of checking your phone for missed messages, try asking yourself, what's one small thing I can do today that brings me peace? Maybe it's watering your plants, writing in a journal, or cooking your favorite meal just for you. It doesn't matter how small it seems, what matters is that it's yours. That's how you slowly build a life that feels full again. And something beautiful happens when you do that. The loneliness starts to lose its grip. The silence becomes softer, more peaceful. You start to see your days not as something to endure, but as something to enjoy. You may even find that, when you stop chasing after attention and start living with quiet joy, your family begins to notice the change in you. They might call more. They might stop by just to see that light in your eyes again. Because happiness, real happiness, radiates. Now that we've talked about rediscovering connection and peace within yourself, let's look deeper into something truly powerful, how to turn that quiet strength into lasting happiness and emotional freedom, no matter who remembers you or not. There's something liberating that happens when you stop measuring your worth by how others treat you and start recognizing the quiet power that's always been inside you. For so long, many of us have lived for others, raising children, caring for partners, working hard, giving, and giving some more. But as the years go by, and the people you've poured so much of your heart into begin living their own lives, it can feel like you've been left behind. But here's a truth that not many people tell you: you are not forgotten. You are evolving. Life has a way of rearranging itself. Relationships change shape, love changes language, and time changes everything, except the essence of who you are. You are still the same soul that once laughed uncontrollably at small things, who found joy in the scent of a new morning, who loved deeply and gave without hesitation. That part of you never left. It's still there, waiting for you to notice it again. When you start reconnecting with that inner self, the part of you that's curious, loving, creative, something incredible happens. You begin to see that your story isn't over just because others aren't around as much. In fact, this might be the first chapter that's truly about you. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Picture yourself waking up tomorrow morning. The sunlight is streaming softly through your window. The house is quiet, but instead of feeling lonely, you feel calm. You stretch, take a deep breath, and think, I'm still here. And today, I get to choose how I'll spend my time. Maybe you make yourself a cup of tea, sit by the window, and watch the world come alive. Maybe you write a letter, not to anyone else, but to yourself. Tell yourself what you're proud of, what you've survived, what you've learned. You might realize that even though people come and go, you've been your own constant companion through it all. And that's something truly worth honoring. Because the truth is, you have already lived through so much heartbreak, loss, change, uncertainty, and you're still standing. That's strength. That's resilience. That's something to be proud of. When people talk about aging, they often focus on what's been lost: youth, energy, opportunities. But what they forget is what's gained: wisdom, perspective, patience, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters. You don't chase approval anymore. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You've earned your peace. You know, sometimes feeling forgotten can actually be a gift in disguise. It gives you the space to rediscover yourself, to reconnect with the simple joys that once got buried under years of obligations. Maybe you pick up an old hobby again: painting, knitting, gardening, writing poetry. Or maybe you try something completely new, like joining a local walking group or learning to play a musical instrument. When you invest time in yourself, you send a powerful message to your heart: I still matter. And you do. You matter not because of how much attention you receive, but because you exist. Because your story, your experiences, your laughter, your love, they've shaped the world around you in ways you can't even see. Think about it. Your children, your grandchildren, your friends, they carry little pieces of your influence with them every single day. Maybe it's the way they cook a certain meal, the phrases they say, or the way they treat others with kindness. That's your legacy, and it continues, even when you're not around to witness it. But even beyond that, there's something deeper, a kind of peace that comes from realizing that you don't need constant validation to live a meaningful life. Peace comes when you start living for the moment you're in, not the one you wish would come. Some of the happiest people I've met in their 60s, 70s, and beyond are those who learn to enjoy their own company. They read, they take walks, they talk to neighbors, they nurture plants, they pray, they sing, they create. Their happiness doesn't depend on who calls or visits, it comes from within. That doesn't mean you stop loving your family. It just means you love them with open hands instead of clenched ones. You let them come and go without letting it shake your peace. You understand that love isn't measured by how often someone shows up, it's measured by how deeply it stays in your heart. And if there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's this: you are never truly alone. Even in silence, even in solitude, you are surrounded by the echoes of all the love you've given, all the lives you've touched, all the moments that shaped you. You are part of something far greater than you realize, a web of memories, kindness, and love that continues to ripple outward. Every smile you've shared, every hand you've held, every tear you've wiped away, it all still exists in the lives you've touched. So, if you ever find yourself sitting in a quiet room, wondering if anyone remembers you, I want you to close your eyes and remember this truth: you have already left your mark. You have already made a difference. And you are still here, which means your story isn't done. There are still sunsets to see, songs to hum, people to meet, laughter to share. There's still time to love yourself the way you once loved everyone else, fully, tenderly, without conditions. And maybe that's the beautiful secret of this stage of life: it's not about being remembered. It's about remembering yourself. Remember your worth, your strength, your beauty, your light. Remember that even if no one says it out loud, the world is better because you've been in it. So keep living with an open heart. Keep smiling, even when the house feels too quiet. Keep dreaming, even if your dreams look a little different now. Because life, your life, still has so much left to offer. And if this message resonates with you, I want you to take a deep breath right now and whisper to yourself, I am enough. Because you are. You are enough, just as you are, not because of who calls, not because of who remembers, but because you are still here, still growing, still shining. If this video touched your heart, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me, what helps you feel connected, peaceful, or joyful when life gets quiet? I'd love to hear your story. And if you haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because we share messages just like this every week to remind you that your life still matters deeply, beautifully, and completely. Until next time, remember this truth: you may feel forgotten, but you are never invisible. The love you've given still lives on, and so do you. Here's to living your best, most peaceful, most meaningful life at every age.